have nightmares. No, I'm just joking. I don't have nightmares regarding this, but I still remember my pops having the abstinence talk with, well, not abstinence talk, but the prophylactic talk with me, and this goddamn bastard brought in a banana and put a condom on the banana. I was horrified. This is right before I went off to college. Oh, it was horrific.
But the idea is this, is that the most over the top, like, what are you willing to sacrifice to get to the point so that you can get to that state of being a high value male, right? So, by the way, when I'm putting out the idea of a vasectomy, okay, keep it coming, because I love that one. But
okay.
If there was a male birth control pill, I probably would have put that in there as well, because what that one section in there was meant to say is that beware of, like, when the sperm leaves your body, you lose all power over paternity and children and everything else. That's one of the things that really slows guys down and keeps it's a hindrance to becoming to getting up to becoming a high value guy. So family creation. I'm not saying you should do these things, but if you want to get to the quickest way to doing those things, because it takes longer for men to mature into their peak potential, then these are the sacrifices that you're going to have to make to get to it as fast as you possibly can.
I feel like
I disagree.
Sneako's probably going to take off from this, because when I came into these spaces, so this is kind of a question that I had, and I think I fought with Fresh and Fit, I think, a lot on our first couple episodes, trying to figure out, like, what are you guys advocating for? So when I would bring up, like, Andrew Tate tweets and Bugattis and all that shit, a lot of the times these two clowns would tell me, they'd say, oh, this stuff is just a proxy for success. You know, you don't actually need the Bugatti. You need the ability to buy the Bugatti. You don't need to travel the world. You need to have freedom, you know, and all these things. So
he's lucky we're moderating.
Yeah, man. So it seems like, it feels like
Lamborghinis.
It feels like, the goal initially wasn't to, like, be the richest motherfucker in the world. The goal was to have the freedom to basically do what you want.
Right.
And then I think the confusing part is, it feels like there's this kind of schism happening right now, or it's already started to happen in the Red Pill community. We've got, like, the kind of trad people that are going in one direction, and then you've got, like, the grind set hustle culture that are going in the other direction. And it feels like the lightning point for this was your tweet, where it was like, okay, we're going to make it clear where we stand. Get a fucking vasectomy, fuck family, and do this shit. And I think that it feels like the ultimate red pillar to you guys is what this is the feeling I have. The ultimate red pillar is a guy that grinds his fucking life away, and then at 35, he's, like, got fucking 15 million in the bank. He's fucked 50 girls, and now he's looking for, like, the best mom that he can find, who's like 20, 21 years old. He's going to get with that girl, 0-1 body count at the most, maybe 1, 0 at the best, right? Virgin girl gets with her, has a family, and then boom, that's like his life. Whereas it feels like on the kind of traditional side, it's like, well, what if you were, like, 24 and found a really good woman at 22, and then you had a family at 25, and you followed your career, she stayed at home, took care of the kids, and you followed that more traditional route. And your tweet, I think, really showed the division of people in terms of how they felt about which of the two lifestyles people were actually aiming for.
You got it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then Sneako can...
Yeah, so what do you believe in? Like, do you think that is the life that you should follow? Because when you go to the red pill spaces, that's pretty much the end route, is because you're high value, you got a bunch of Lamborghinis, you're extremely rich. And we talk about competence when it comes to a high value man. Like, I didn't have a rich dad growing up, and that didn't really hinder his competence. And in fact, in a lot of ways, being a father will help you become more competent, because other people are dependent and you're responsible for them. So that will make you become a full, capable man, which is, I think, the most important part of life. It's the most important part of life is not having a bunch of hoes, not fucking 50 girls, or getting the most amount of money possible and just hustle, grinding
Rollo's
forever.
not saying
The reason that we are here is to have a family, is to create. And so you see the red pill, and it's a response to feminism. You see this doomer way, like all these girls are hoes, all these girls on Instagram, they're all thoughts, whatever, they all belong to the streets. And so the reaction to that is the red pill, which is basically feminism, just male feminism. It's the same response. We make fun of girls who say that they want to freeze their eggs and wait till they're 35, and then men are giving the same advice to each other, saying, and I know you're not saying that's advice, but pretty much, like, if you look at the definition of advice, that's what that tweet was.
Yeah, so I think there's two things here. We specifically don't run around calling girls 304s. And, like, I actually have a problem with it, because I hear you sometimes talk about the audience there. We have to separate the audience, almost like Christ, Christianity, and the church. We have to separate the audience, because I agree with you. There's some shit that I see that people write on your streams as well, where I'm like, what the fuck is this, man? This is crazy, and I don't want to be associated with it. Red pill is not, and again, I'm red pill adjacent. Red pill is not something I get a union card for that I pay dues for. It's an ethereal thing that just sort of exists. Like, he calls it a praxeology. So the idea that, like, one of the things that's happened is every time, because he calls himself the Godfather of it. When somebody does some stupid shit in the arena, then it's his fault, and then now we're gonna punch his book, because now the thing is, it's just a cloud, but then there's a book. Okay, now we have a physical thing to attack, and now Rollo has a tweet. Now we have a physical thing to attack, and so that's part of the issue, is that like now he's being held accountable for every. And I agree with you. Some of the things you hear are fucking idiotic,
over the top. Yeah.
Right.
Well, he's being held accountable because he calls himself. Did he just say that he calls himself the Godfather of the Red Pill?
Because here's an example. When we go over the psychological studies that show that men don't have the same, they don't necessarily cheat more because they have more higher body count, but women do. They tend to be unhappy in a relationship. There's the Institute for Family Studies study that we refer to all the time. That's not a validation for cheating. We're not suggesting men cheat. You said that in the response thing that I definitely do not think men should cheat, because in that whole situation you're still lying. That is a lack of integrity regardless. But do men have the ability to have more sexual partners early on in life? I was 20 years old. I'm 45 now. I was 20 years old at once, and there was a point in my life where I was going to UT Austin and I wanted to have sex with attractive women, and I didn't think about anything else except doing that. That's how my brain worked. And later on, did it affect me negatively? I don't think it did. I just don't think it had the same thing. So I don't think it's a rationale for that belief. But the thing is, what happens is anytime something bad happens or somebody says something stupid, it just comes back. It's like, now all red pillars are saying this all the time, and I just don't agree with that.
I understand what you're saying here. So first, let me clarify one thing. So I understand.
Should we define the red pill?
No, I don't think that's going to take all night.
How long do you got?
Next week.
So I think the issue with Rollo's tweet, because for a lot of people it looks like advice, and for Rollo, he feels like it wasn't advice.
Right.
I think the reality was, the disconnect is that that tweet was advice, but it was for advice to become a certain type of high value man that Rollo isn't saying everybody needs to become.
It's the quickest.
So, yeah, the quickest way to get to this part, it was the advice to do that, but he wasn't necessarily advising you to do that, right? It would be like him tweeting out, like, if you want to become the flattest person possible, jump off a cliff. And I say, well, is that advice to jump off a cliff? Well, if you want to be the flattest person possible, but you don't have to do this thing because you don't have to be the flattest person.
Statement.
Yeah, exactly. Sure.
Well, and the other
Which is,
thing
I
is,
think-
I mean, there's a few people who got it almost immediately. Hotep Jesus got it immediately. He did. He did stream it. Jedediah Beulah, while you were on with Jedediah, she got it immediately. She's like, I know Rollo. I know he's not like this. I know this is a troll. This is she understood it immediately.
Well, so here's this is confusing at what this is, right? Because the thing is that they ask a question, debate vasectomy, and everyone's kind of going around the bush. What it sounds like is that Destiny is saying, well, I understand how it could be misinterpreted because you said that it's not advice, but it kind of is advice, but it's advice for a certain type of red pill lifestyle. And it sounds like the red pill lifestyle is that would be the antithesis of what Sneako is now advocating for. The antithesis being get the Bugatti, get all the wealth, be, 62 years old and have, $1 million in the bank. It seems like it's the antithesis versus if you were 24, found a nice young lady who's, 22, 23, y'all got married a year later, and you lived a completely different lifestyle. So for that lifestyle, vasectomy wouldn't make sense. But still, I think that the crux of the issue of the point is that it's still not the quickest, because you're not suggesting in this advice to just be abstinent or just use protection. You're suggesting something that can in some cases not be reversed. And the longer that you go without doing it, the less that it can be reversed. I think after like 10 years, it's like a 50% reversal rate. So you are in effect sterilizing a component of your audience.
Sure, but then I also saw you.
She's familiar with my background.
I also saw you tweet the next day, like you were kind of making fun of the TradCon way of life, saying that you want to be at your funeral bed with a bunch of kids around.
I was
saying that you would rather be listening to metal in your car. That's how you want to go.
I was mocking the idea of this sort of pastoral kind of Norman Rockwell fantasy of dying on your bed with, like, as an old man surrounded by grandchildren and whatever, and like as if that's like my funeral's going to beat your funeral,
right? As if
it's like
heavy metal in a car.
It's I put it this way: would you rather go out in a blaze of glory? Would you rather, was it better to burn out than fade away? What would you rather?
I don't see heavy metal in your car as a blaze of glory. That seems.
Okay,
right, but it's subjective, isn't it?
Here's the thing: is it's over the top because I'm drawing attention to this fantasy of staying in your bed in an assisted living facility when 90% of people are never going to experience that. But it's a fantasy that we sell people so that we can sell them other ideologies.
I want to consider one other thing. You remember what he said earlier? He's like, one of the things you said was avoid family creation. Had I written that same tweet, what I would have said instead was be the one who chooses when and where you have kids, and don't let
control the birth.
Control the birth.
Wow, imagine that. From
well, I understand. Yeah,
That
but I
should've been
understand.
written,
an example of that is a vasectomy. I
Sure.
would not have said vasectomy, but guess what?
I
My
know you
tweet
wouldn't.
would not have gone viral. I wish I could say vasectomy on Twitter all day and go fucking viral. It's
That's the
incredible.
only thing they focused
So
on.
I
too.
understand what you're saying there. So I would argue that you do pay dues to some extent to certain groups that you're a part of. So this is something that I noticed being relatively outside of groups myself. I kind of watch how people move through groups, and it seems like there very much is a kind of there are a lot of groups that exist in these internet communities, and you get benefits for being part of the group because you kind of inherit audiences and cross-pollination from other people.
Sure.
And then there are sometimes shitty parts of being in the group. So for instance, if somebody says or does something crazy, well, now you're kind of on the hook for it because this motherfucker in your union just said some wild shit, and
He's directly talking about Fresh and Fit without making it known that he's talking about Fresh and Fit. So what he's saying is that Rollo said something. He's the godfather of the community. Fresh and Fit had to come up to bat with him. So you're a part of that unit. You're a part of that union. Glenn Lawrence says, $10 super chat. Hey MTR, were you told to practice abstinence when you were younger? How did that work out? The point to suggest extreme is to get to meet people in the middle. No, I didn't practice abstinence when I was younger, nor was I told to. I have nightmares. Nah, I'm just joking. I don't have nightmares regarding this, but I still remember my pops having the abstinence talk with, well, not abstinence talk, but the prophylactic talk with me, and this goddamn bastard brought in a banana and put a condom on the banana. I was horrified. This is right before I went off to college. Oh, it was horrific. You know, sometimes you just think about weird shit in the middle of the night, like, oh God, I can't believe he did that. But he was trying to make sure that, I didn't, go and get a baby early. You understand what I'm saying? So, but I've always been a wrap it up kid. And in fact, like, I feel like I follow so much within the lines of that, because I'm thinking like all of these people, like I remember seeing like math equations of like, if he messed with 3 people, she messed with 3 people, and then you fucked a girl who messed with the guy that messed with 3 people, in all of like the interaction, if it was all raw, like all the bodies that could be sharing, or the potentials of STDs and like the percentage of what it is, right? Like all of that shit, I was just like, you know what, just wrap it up. And I think the wrap it up is the reason why I don't have kids right now. It's a strong reason why. So it benefited me. Now, if I heard vasectomy back in the day, and I don't know, I just have to think about that, do research on it, and I still come to the conclusion that it was ridiculous. That's it.
something that I wholeheartedly disagree with is this idea that you can say like, well, everybody in my comment section might say this, but I didn't say that, or I'm just making descriptions. Humans never just make descriptions. We never just observe things. The process of choosing to observe something already requires a decision to be made, right? When you go into a laboratory to study medicine, we're not just plugging random chemicals and random elements into a formula and see what happens. We're doing something to try to figure out like, well, what is going to help make humans healthier? What's going to be a good medication for treating a disease or whatever? That's typically what we do. So when we're analyzing like the red pill, it's not just a praxeology, I think you called it, because even I think in your first book, you say like the goal is to make it so that your wife is not fucking the alpha, right? The reason why we observe things is so that we can take something useful from it and then go and do something with it.
Yes.
If I had an audience and I was making certain observations, and this has happened a lot, where I fight with a lot of black people, I notice my audience is getting a little bit racist. I fight with a lot of white people, I notice my audience is also getting a little racist. I fight with a bunch of women, they're starting to hate women, right? I notice that like if I do certain things, my audience definitely responds in certain ways, and your guys as well.
But you're not racist.
But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I think what matters is the impact you have on other people around you. Like if I go every day and I see my wife and I'm like, hey, what's up? And it's not at the end of like 6 months, she's like, you haven't told me that you think I'm pretty like a single time. And I'm thinking like, okay, well, obviously I think you're pretty. You're my fucking wife. She's like, well, I need to hear it. I can't just say like, well, listen here, you stupid bitch. Obviously I think you're pretty. I don't have to say shit to you, motherfucker, right? I was like, okay, I have to understand how you feel. I've got to tell you that I think you're beautiful, blah, blah, blah. I have to do that every day because that's part of like what really matters at the end of the day is the impact you have on another person.
Should you be held accountable for your
Sneako's looking at the
racist comments in your from your streamers?
Like directly, like you said them, no. But if you're fostering a certain type of audience, I think as leaders, which whether or not we want to believe it, to some extent we are, that's how we're treated, right? We're paid. When somebody gives you, like, we'll say on one end, well, I don't influence my audience. And then in the next breath, somebody will be like, I'll give you X $1,000 to promote a product. Why are you promoting the product? Because if I tell you to buy it, I know you will. Right? So obviously we have influence over our audience. And if our audience is all heading in a certain direction, I think it's important. Like, you gotta, hold on, guys. I see you guys are saying a lot of this shit. Maybe we need to pull it back. So when you say things about like avoiding family creation, you might say like, well, I don't actually mean to avoid it. I just mean to choose when you have children. that might be the case, but broadly in the red pill speaking, I've seen this huge push where it's like, never fucking have kids, never get married, women are trying to steal your shit, child support, alimony, women are coming after you. And it's like, okay, well, combine that with the vasectomy advice or the, control your birthing advice, and it makes the relationship seem very adversarial, like you are trying to avoid having kids at all costs. That's what it feels like, I guess, from the outset. And I think that's what a lot of the followers of red pill people in comment sections, I think that's the message they would carry forward.
I think the issue.
First things first. This is not sped up. That's Destiny. Just that's 1x. This is not 1.25, 1.4. That brother just talked fast as shit. But he's absolutely right regarding the audiences. Right. It's similar to like, let's say you're a CEO of a company and there's racist people within your organization. Right. That doesn't reflect to you directly. Right. But you're held accountable for the racist people that you hired within your organization. Right, or the people that are stealing within your organization. It reflects badly on the entire organization and the CEO, because the CEO has to be accountable for all 10 to 20 to 30,000 employees. It's the same thing as being a content creator. If your audience is spamming "Hi Hitler" down into the chat, and that's not what you stand for as a content creator, then you have to make it clear to your audience not to goddamn do that.
Issue is then who's responsible? Because one of the issues, one thing we tried, Rollo and I tried, is our show. We try to have girls on there who have master's degrees. We try to have girls on there who do all different kinds of jobs. And when we do, we get the exact same response. Yeah. When we had Miss Nevada on there, and they were like, "Yeah, she's a ran through fucking hoe." And I was like, "What the fuck can we do?"
We have women on there with master's degrees.
What can we fucking do? And so the thing is, while I agree with you, no matter what we do, this audience still exists and they still talk about it.
But why do they think that? What do they think that about these people?
The thing is,
because they want something to complain about. They want something to bitch and moan about.
Yeah, but they could complain about.
No. And they also just want to be entertained, and they think that by trolling in the comment section, it adds to their value as human beings. So I take a little bit of what I said just back. It's less so of the CEO relationship, because those are people that are within your company. The people in your content user base, they're not within your company. You guys are not within my company. So I am lesser to a degree responsible for the things that you guys say, as opposed to a CEO of a company. I rescind the portion of what I just said.